Football Land. It's your girl once again. Welcome to All Things Football from Ladies Perspective. Today is Saturday, June the 2nd, 2018, and I am so glad that you're tuning in to this live edition here on YouTube. Please share this channel to everyone that you know that loves the game of the NFL. This channel is for all genders, and it's also for all fans of the sport. It's just from a lady's perspective. I'm Sonia Anderson, and I'm so glad that you have tuned in. Feel free to comment below or hit me up on Messenger and Facebook, and that's Sonja, last name Anderson. Just got a little bit of NFL news for you. First and foremost, let's start out with a little bit of things. You know, I keep my notes coming. Reuben Foster has had those charges dropped. The 49er star who was investigated earlier for domestic violence with his wife, those charges are now dropped because the evidence is insufficient to support the arrest and conviction of him. So Mr. Foster looks like he's going to be in the clear, and the NFL will not longer be investigating him for those, because you know they are definitely anti-domestic violence. Let's talk a little bit about breaking news right about now about the new helmet rule. So apparently the NFL has put cameras inside of helmets, and this is to prevent the CTE lawsuits that are coming about because of the concussions that a lot of players are now suing the NFL for, stating that they are having all these issues with CTE, which cannot be diagnosed until after a person has passed away and an autopsy is performed. So it cannot be diagnosed while the person is alive. And so it's hard to determine what type of brain injuries that these players are having. Now, apparently, a lot of players are still stating even now that they're having headaches and a lot of dizziness and a lot of brain type injuries and pain or whatever. And they are suing the NFL because of the hard hits that they've taken during the years of their career in playing the sport. Now, these helmets will basically call the fouls, the penalties from the inside of the helmet. They'll be able to alert the officials that a contact was made helmet to helmet of a player, despite the fact that they've stationed persons above the field and throughout the stadium that are actually looking at this game, and the camera replay is definitely advising the referees on these persons being hit. Now, you know, with this past season, as soon as a person was even appearing to be taking a helmet-to-helmet hit, they were taken to the side and into a tent to be examined immediately. And if it was found that they were concussed, they were removed immediately from the game, and they were also usually prohibited from playing in the next two subsequent games following that particular injury. Sometimes there were even instances where people were saying they were not concussed and they passed the concussion protocol, but because of due diligence of the NFL, they were removed from the game in spite of. So it's going to be very interesting to follow the videos that will be put up on Twitter by the NFL, through Instagram. Bleacher Report, I think, has a demonstration up about how these helmet cameras are actually going to work. It's going to be a layer of protection for both the player and the league, because it protects the player from additional head injuries, and it also can prevent the league from getting a lot of these legal issues going on and additional court proceedings, because it looks like they're taking their extra measures to ensure that the safety of the players is paramount. So we'll follow up on that at another time. Now, speaking of the NFL and players, the national anthem protest issue is still ongoing. In fact, players are now stating that they will not even play on the field until Eric Reid and Colin Kaepernick are signed by a team. Now, you know, Kaepernick has a collusion case that's going, and according to some of the reports during the dispositions and depositions and transcripts that are coming out, Kaepernick was viewed as a starter quarterback. He was not, looked at like anybody different. He was still viewed as extremely talented. However, he has not been signed, and so that legal issue, that suit is ongoing. Emails have been seized, any type of communications, records, those all have been seized and are now being viewed by the appropriate officials as this goes on. Now, the NFL has stated that players have the option in the new season to stay in the locker room without coming out for the national anthem. But if they come out, they are expected to stand during the national anthem. And if they do not stand, they can be imposed 15-yard penalties as well as personal fines for not standing during the anthem. Now, the NFLPA, the National Football League Players Association, has stated their outrage at this decision and stated that they will fight anything that encroaches on players' rights. And they definitely feel that the NFL is forcing players to stand in a time that they are not willing to stand as they continue to protest police brutality and what they are noting as injustices throughout the particularly minority civil people throughout the United States, the civilians here, and their ongoing issues with law enforcement. Now, some law enforcement agencies are standing up as well, stating that their persons are being discriminated of just because they wear a uniform. And in fact, that's true. All cops are not bad cops, just like all minorities are not bad. And we just have to come together as a race, the human race, and let that be that. So I'm hoping that it doesn't come down to that. A lot of players are saying they will not play. I'm just hoping it doesn't come down to the fact of protesting within the league and an all-out strike. As you all remember, a few years ago, the NFL did have a strike, but it was not on this magnitude. It was other things, but the season kicked off pretty late. So we're going to follow that. Now, Le'Veon Bell has still not been participating in OTAs with the Pittsburgh Steelers because just like last year, they franchised him and he refuses to participate in OTAs until he has been re-signed with the Steelers. Julio Jones for the Atlanta Falcons is still not is still not in OTAs as well because he's looking for a new contract. Aaron Rodgers is looking for a new contract with Green Bay, but he is participating in OTAs, but he is stating that he wants his contract to have a new opt-out option so that if he wants to leave, he cannot be penalized and he can take his monies. Speaking of Rodgers, Jordy Nelson today was, Clay Matthews today during a charity softball game was hit in the nose by a fly ball. He was treated and released from the local ER. He has a broken nose, but he's going to be fine. Also, Davante Adams was at that game and stated that he just had, quote, a boo-boo on his nose, but he was going to be fine. Now, you all know that Jordy Nelson is no longer with them because he is now with the Oakland Raiders as Green Bay released him. Now, speaking of being released, Zach Banner, who was signed with the Carolina Panthers, just drafted, has now already been waived. So he did not even get a chance to do much with the Panthers organization. Now, speaking of Panthers and organizations, the NFL has announced their future Super Bowls. In 2023, it will be in Arizona, and in 2024, it's going to be in New Orleans. So those are going to be coming up right away. Now, also, Derek Anderson has announced that this is his last year with the Panthers that we just had, so he will not be returning as backup quarterback. DA, we thank you. As a Panther fan, I thank you. You will be missed. So we don't know what his future endeavors entail, but he has definitely left the league. Now, the NFL will not investigate or further pursue the 1996 sexual allegations against former defensive coordinator for the New England Patriots, now new coach Matt Patricia of the Detroit Lions. Allegations, those have been dropped, and so the league is no longer investigating that, and he's all clear to go. Now back to the contracts talk. OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., and the Giants have not begun permanent talks yet about his contract, but he is definitely wanting a new contract. In fact, we're seeing a lot of guys now, they want that. Matt Ryan got this $150 million contract with the Falcons, and it's just kind of alerted like a domino effect throughout the league. Aaron Donald of the Rams is not doing OTAs because he too wants a new deal. Now, speaking of deals and monies and everything, Roger Goodell has gone to Congress and stated that he wants legalized sporting gambling in every state, no matter what. He wants everybody in every state to be able to freely bet on NFL games without penalties. So we'll be staying tuned to see what Congress thinks of that, because you know they're going to actually probably require a fee of some sort up front to legalize this recreational activity, because they're not going to pass something without it being beneficial to government. Now, Cam Jordan of the New Orleans Saints actually gave a slight prop to Cam Newton, stating that he was the most difficult quarterback to sack. And, you know, they have a little rivalry going back and forth because of the divisional rivalry between those two, and because of him hitting Cam in that costly game that eliminated the Panthers from the playoffs right before the NFC Championship last year. But he said Cam's a big dude and he's hard to take down. And so thanks for the props, Cam Jordan. Now, former Steelers Mike Adams has lost almost 70 pounds when he left out as offensive tackle, and now he wants to return to the league as a tight end. Now, he was signed in 2012 as a draftee and released in 2015-16 after he missed most of the 2015 year. And the Chicago Bears signed him, and he played 12 games for them, and then he disappeared from the league. So we'll see what goes up with that. Free agent Antonio Gates. We got a lot of people coming up that are Hall of Famer potentials. And so the most thing for me is free agent Antonio Gates is the most touchdown scoring tight end in NFL history. But we got some people that the Hall of Fame is really looking at. We got Tom Brady, of course. We know him as the GOAT. 13 Pro Bowl nods, most decorated quarterback in history. In other words, he's the most winningest quarterback for Super Bowls. Drew Brees has 11 Pro Bowls, and he has two-time Offensive Player of the Year nominations, 66.9 completion rating, being the highest completion rating by a quarterback in the league for the Hall of Fame vote. Ben Roethlisberger, Aaron Rodgers, Adrian Peterson, who's now a free agent, is one of the three most dominant players in the league for half a decade. Now, Dolphins Frank Gore, former 49ers, is only one of 8 players who has 13,000 plus rushing yards. Those other 7 nominees have already been inducted into the Hall of Fame, so we'll be keeping an eye to see if Frank Gore actually gets in there. Arizona's Larry Fitzgerald is only topped by Jerry Rice for catches, most catches, over 100 plus touchdown catches. Excuse me. And there's only 9 other players who can actually say this, and Larry Fitzgerald has won. So we also have free agent Antonio Gates, like I was mentioning earlier, has the most touchdown scoring tight ends, 114. Excuse me, guys. Carolina Panthers defensive end, Julius Peppers, 9-time Pro Bowler, 3 times All-Pro, Defensive Player of the Year, ranked number 4, 154.5 sacks. All 6 players with more than 140 sacks are already in the Hall of Fame. J.J. Watt, you know what he does off the field, but he's tied with Lawrence Taylor for 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, only player in the league with multiple 20-sack seasons. Followed up by Colts Adam Vinatieri, who is looking to pass Morten Anderson's clutch kicker, clutch points, most in the NFL this season. Vinatieri has 4 Super Bowls, and Morten Anderson had none, and he's in the Hall of Fame. So we'll be looking at all of these, and we thank you so much for tuning in to All Things Football from a Lady's Perspective. Please subscribe, share, and have a good night.